Hi, and welcome to episode number 64 of Dreamers and Doers, where I interview people who follow their passion and use it to make the world better. And I think that's you, Virginia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you were one of the 27 women that will change the world according to Inc. magazine. I'm so stoked to have you here. And just to give a bit of background, I met Virginia at one of her high-end mastermind here in Bali. And to be honest, when I went there, I was like, wow, this is my tribe. And this chick is so amazing as connecting like-minded people. So I want to really thank you for that. It gave me the inspiration to start masterminds too that are amazing. So thank you so much for the inspiration. And as usual, I like to start with the story of my guest. So now you've started that amazing brand called ITrustYou. And maybe if you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got so interested in creating more connections in this world.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm super stoked that you're doing masterminds. I think it's so important for us to come together in, creating tribe and in community to support and uplift each other, because that's how we grow and that's how we expand and really bring in a new golden age of awesomeness. So amazing, and I'm super stoked to see what you're doing. So my story has a lot of connection and disconnection in it. I've been nomadic since I was 3 years old. I've been to 15 different schools all over the world. And within that, I was handed a lot of kind of mixed bags. In some schools, I was super happy and, really well integrated and had amazing friends. And then at other times, I was getting bullied so badly that I refused to go to school 1 year and spent that entire year on a Harry Potter forum. This was before Facebook. This was before anything. I was 13 years old, and it really shaped my personality in a massive way. And I think that was the beginning of my, fluency when it comes to social media and the online world. Because for a whole year, I would wake up maybe at 8, 9 o'clock. I would get myself some breakfast, and I would sit down on my father's computer in the basement, and I would be on that computer for basically 8, 10, 12 hours, as long as my parents would let me, because then they would eventually be like, get off the computer, And I was moderating in these forums, and I had an online boyfriend that lived in Colombia that we would Skype and stuff like that. And I think that was incredibly important for me as a kid that was such an outcast in her school, in her community, and that's what we crave most, is connection, is to be seen, and that's how we grow and that's how we expand. And so the online space was my first sort of refuge into that. And then I moved out when I was 16, and again had to start my life over. I moved to another country as well, not only moving out of my parents' house, but moving to another country by myself, to Salzburg, Austria. And I would say one of my after the Harry Potter forum, something that completely changed my life was couch surfing. At 17 years old, I became a couch surfing ambassador for Salzburg, and I've hosted over 500 people. In my guest room, living room, couch, in my own bed. You know what I mean? At one point, I had this tiny little apartment, and I hosted 10 people in there. And so I was being able to meet and connect with travelers from all over the world that were telling me their stories, and I was creating this global network. So what you see me doing now with Humans I Trust and with this high-level entrepreneur community that are here to impact the earth in a positive way, I've always been doing that. You know what I mean? Because I love gathering people together, and there's so much magic that is created, and I'm a very natural leader in that sense, that I like kind of curating and guiding along. And oftentimes that actually means that you're not the one joking around the whole time and having all the fun and having all the experiences, but you're kind of weaving and holding space. And sometimes it takes on an even more serious role, right? But that's where I think I'm at home, whereas other people actually don't like to step into leadership that much, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. And, yes, you do get the gratitude and the celebration, but then you also get the downfalls and the disappointment when things are not working. So you have to be able to hold that space and just be okay, that's fine. You know, like this is what I chose in that moment, and that's the way I decided to go. And so, yeah, so I think my life has been, you know, colored through that with, you know, on the one hand, being a total outsider and feeling like I don't belong, being insecure and feeling ugly and feeling like I never get the hot guys that I have a crush on or something like that. You know what I mean? And then through becoming in and standing in my own power and standing in my own self love, then having created the most amazing life that I could have never even dreamed when I was, you know, when I was that young and felt like an outcast.
Thanks. And as we talk about leadership, I find sometimes, and we can talk about it after, but that sometimes when I step into a leadership role, it can come with a little bit of loneliness.
Yes.
And I think you're probably one of the persons that I found combine well leadership and also communities, and not trying to be a leader by being a lone wolf.
Totally.
But before, can you explain a little bit what you're doing with ITrustYou? What is this movement about?
So ITrustYou is an organization that is dedicated to regenerating the earth. So everything that we do, I mean, to put it simply, is we're prolonging humanity's life on earth. That's the goal, is to give us more time to be here.
Are you worried?
I'm not worried. I am 100% certain that we have everything. Like, everything is already, like, I believe that what we're working towards, more like sustainability, regeneration, all of that, like, it's already been decided, and it's right now we just get to witness and to get to show up and execute. So I feel like it's already written. So I'm not worried in that sense, but I do want to raise awareness to the people that don't have the awareness yet, that the way that we're consuming our, you know, resources and the resources that we are deciding to consume, because the thing is that we have all the technology, we have all of the you know, clean energy resources and everything to be 100% like regenerative and actually give back to the earth in massive ways, so that we can, you know, we have access to all sorts of technology. If people are interested in that, please reach out. But the problem is that a lot of people who hold most of the funds right now are invested into the energies that are harmful for the planet. And so there has to be like a massive like restructure. And, you know, we have different ways that we're going to be executing that. And it's a lifelong mission. You know what I mean? This is not like a 3-year company that I'm building. Like, this is like the rest of my life. This is my life's work. But you know, we first started with the t-shirts, with the ITrustYou t-shirts, which is facilitating more connection and bringing people more into synchronicity and flow. Because, I mean, you own an ITrustYou shirt. Hasn't it changed the way that you interact with people when you are in day-to-day situations?
When I wear it, I own it, and it creates connection. Like, some random people come and really like the message.
Totally, exactly. So people start talking to you. So what you're doing is you're attracting the universe towards you, which creates more opportunity and possibilities to you. So it's actually like, it's more than a t-shirt. That's why on our new shirts, on our new collection, it says this is not a t-shirt, like, to make it very clear. And so that's where we started in facilitating connection. And the next part that we just launched is our university, ITrustYou University. Is because education is what needs to happen next at a mass scale, completely revolutionizing what we have right now and giving people access to the resources. Because, like, right now, honestly, like, you can learn anything that you want to learn on YouTube through free master classes. Like, people are giving away content like nothing, very, very valuable content, which, you know, you probably couldn't even find in Harvard or Yale. And so you could educate yourself as much as you want, but we need to also filter and streamline and see, like, what is exactly the most useful information. And that is what ITrustYou University is doing, is giving people an actual future in this new economy.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot to be said about the new ways to educate people. How can people look into the education platform?
Yeah, so if you go on my Instagram profile at Virginia Salas Kastilio, on my link in my bio, you can access a free masterclass. It's called How to Build Your Legacy, which is what I'm all about. I'm all about legacies, because it's not about what is the monetary value, what is like your role called, but like, what is the legacy that I want to leave here on earth. And so you can go to that masterclass, and then you have the option to buy the course from there. So like enjoy the an hour of free content, or just go on ITrustUniversity.com, and you'll be able to see our courses, including my course, and from other professors that we have on there.
Nice. And to go back to your great leadership, along with being careful with loneliness, I'm asking because that's definitely something I've been leaning a bit towards. Is like when you're a leader, sometimes it can feel a little bit isolating. Is it something that you felt too? And if yes, how do you cope with that?
I think you can feel isolated as a leader when you are, on the one hand, not in tune with who you are. So if you haven't fallen in love with yourself yet and really just like found your own alignment, because I mean, you'll feel isolated in all different types of scenarios because you haven't found yourself yet. And that's why you don't even know how to connect with other people. So that's the first thing that you should be looking at if you're getting those emotions. And then the second thing that can feel isolating is if you're not surrounding yourself by other leaders, if you're not surrounding yourself by other people that can see your visions. And when you tell me a grand idea that, you want to have a concert on the moon, that I'm like, that sounds like a fucking great idea. How can I support? Instead of saying you're crazy.
And that's why we're in Bali, right? Like I just come back from Paris, and obviously I felt way more lonely when I was in Paris.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm probably more a leader there because I'm more advanced. But here I was like, good, I'm not like the most advanced here, and that's great.
Totally, and that's why I built the network Humans I Trust, because I wanted to bring leaders together and also facilitate the space for the growth of more leaders. Because like I'm in the business of creating more leaders, not more followers, because it's the leaders that will actually change the world and not the followers.
Well, and that's what we say, right? Great leaders create other leaders.
Absolutely.
I feel that's what you're doing, definitely. So
Thank you.
So thanks for doing that. And another point I wanted to touch on, because we're talking about connections, and again, so you do really well being a leader while being still very connected, and you do also very well being very open and having fun face to face. When we go ecstatic dance on Sunday, we're like roaring and playing like we're little lions and being very simple in that way and smiling and hugging. And at the same time, you're building this brand. You're building this. I think you have like more than 100,000 followers on Instagram, and like, how do you combine a simple life with having a major impact? Because I feel that's what you combine.
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I think it's so important for other leaders to really allow themselves to be fully self-expressed and not feel like, oh, I'm a leader, like I can't get on the floor like a lion and play and dance, because what you're doing is you're shutting yourself off and you're assigning yourself a role of the way that you're supposed to look to society, and the way that also you deserve that leadership. Because that's the other thing is like you don't fight for leadership, you don't demand leadership. Like leadership is a mantle that is placed upon you by the others that have decided to follow you. You can't suddenly proclaim yourself a leader, and just like that is and that's a lot where the ego comes into play. And so for me, I want to live the most magical, blissful, fully self-expressed life with humans that excite me and that engage me, and that has to do with me playing in all of my avatars, with my inner child, with my inner leader, like, and all of those have to play together in unison. And I think one of the things where I am very discerning with is people in my life, having people in my life that are taking from me. So if I find that I have others around me that are trying to pool my energy and not actually have it be a beautiful exchange, because no matter who someone is, like if you're a homeless person on the street, you can give me value just like I can give you value. It doesn't matter what someone's status or income status is. It's really about like, how am I showing up for you as a human being, and am I willing to give instead of just asking? Because a lot of people are in that survival mode mindset where they feel I'm not getting enough, life isn't giving me enough. And so they're constantly asking, and it becomes toxic and exhausting to people around them. So in terms of, play and connection, all of that is who we truly are as humans. And if you deny that to yourself, you're only going to find yourself in a lot of pain and continuing to spiral and not understanding why you feel so drained and exhausted all the time. Whereas I am like a literally energizer bunny. I have so much energy. I can work 7 days a week for a whole year, like in unison, just being like, oh, this is what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like that to me because I'm not overexerting myself, because I am in total flow. And so, yeah, that's the secret sauce.
Okay, well, no, but that's so interesting. And actually, I was just thinking as you were saying this, that's true. Every time I see you, you come from that place of abundance, really, of an overflowing cup, right?
Yeah.
And well, you can feel you don't have any of that neediness when you come into a relationship, in a connection, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Yeah. So my question then would be, how do you cultivate that state of not being in survival, but being in a state of abundance all the time?
I think it's really, truly knowing that you are infinite and that you have been on this earth or this life form for many, many times, and that this human body that we're currently operating has created certain limitations in our mind. And so we can operate from our mind and our heart, and we are taught to operate from our minds and to think and try to make everything logic. Everything needs to make sense, but when you're following by the heart and you're more in flow and being in your divine presence, I mean, it just, everything is in so much more ease. And so if you're overthinking of where is the money coming from, where is this coming from, what you're actually doing is you're disattracting. This is where I really recommend anyone to just watch The Secret again and watch the Law of Attraction, because it's fascinating the way that even when people know about the Law of Attraction, they're like, oh yeah, I totally use this, but they actually are disattracting so many things from their lives, and even how much do we disattract love? Like when I tell you, oh my God, Alex, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome, I love your nose and your haircut, you're such a sexy guy, you know what I mean? Giving you that love and you just receiving it. And a lot of people are like, no,
you too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Straight away, either deflecting and saying, no, they're not beautiful, or putting it back on the other person. And so we're constantly in this spiral of actually giving away. And so let me give you an example. So with ITrustYou and with my other company, Genie TV, everything is self-funded. Everything has been, completely earned by me and put into the company. So there's no outside investment or anything like that. And when it came to the next level of growth for ITrust University and all these professors that we have on board, and there's many courses that we're launching, this is a big scale operation basically. And for that to be self-funded, it's definitely a stretch. And so I sat down and I did a ceremony and I said, I'm calling in an investor. And so, I said, I'm calling in a billionaire investor. And I did, I was actually on my way to a Bali Spirit Fest. And, I did a whole ceremony and I did a prayer and everything. And then the next morning I wake up and I go to Bali Spirit Fest and I meet the son of a billionaire. And who, told me, you probably know him as well. And so, we basically connected. It was oh my God, what you're doing with ITrustYou is amazing. And so we had, it was very powerful, very, very powerful meeting. And I was like, wow, that was so quick. Next day, how many sons of billionaires do you meet? You know what I mean? It's not. And he's like, I have, incredible amounts of capital that I want to invest in something that is changing the world and, all this kind of stuff. And so I was amazing. And so we had, various meetings, he came to my mastermind, there was a lot of researching and getting to know each other and all this kind of stuff. And so finally, he's okay. He's I want to offer you unlimited investment for ITrustYou. Whatever you need, I will invest. And he's but and I don't really care about the money. It's not a big thing for me. That's I just want to give it, but I want to feel I want to have 50% of the company just so that I have it. And he's maybe my money I'll even donate away to a charity, but it's just so that I can feel it's mine. And that didn't feel right with me. It felt like it was coming from a place of ego instead of a place of true service to the company, because it's oh, I'm gonna just donate it away. It's really what we're doing, donate it to some random charity. It's just, and But like why I'm telling the story is when you ask for something, you get it, right? And it's really important that you continue to ask. Like after I had that experience, I was like, you know what? Like, I think it's fine. I'm happy with me doing my self investment, and and then I changed the revenue model, brought in like $30,000 for ITrustYou, and I was like, okay, great. So I like had some more capital to work with, and then I'm also waiting for another investment from some crypto stuff that I did last year, and so there's like things coming together, and I was like, I think I could carry it, and now it really takes like quite the long time like to build these things. And so I spoke to some of my mentors because I have a beautiful network of people that like incredibly support like everything that I do in such beautiful ways. And I'm not one to like often ask, but like when I do ask for advice, like it's because I'm thinking about something like I need a solution here. And so so one of my advisors was like, I think it's time for you to bring in investment in in a way that it is right and that it is aligned, because that's another thing. I asked for an investor, I got an investor, but I didn't ask for like an aligned investor who I know that can carry this. And then so that has manifested within like 4 days after that,
It's about being specific. Knowing what you want, being aligned, and being specific.
Totally, exactly, and completely asking for it, because it's just so important, and we forget to ask. Like that ask is just everything, so and like you don't have to ask anybody. You just ask the universe. Like you literally just pray for it, and that sounds like so woo woo and crazy for people, but like literally write it down, and it's like creating a plan.
And I think for people who think it's woo woo anyway, like. Well, I do believe that we have a relationship with the universe and that we communicate and that it answers. But even if you don't believe in that anyway, that's going to clarify what you focus on, and you're going to find it more anyway, right? And that's something you don't have to believe in anything.
Exactly. It's just like pure common logic. Like if if like when you're creating a business plan, that's all a business plan is. That it's a step-by-step like prayer of what it is that you're creating and manifesting, and then you just execute it. And so it happens like with everything else. But the more you become into flow and alignment, and the more you like let the ego aside and actually lead with your purpose and your heart, this magic like happens so quickly that you're just like, whoa, which is what's going to happen on the 11th of the 11th at the Humans I Trust Mastermind. Like every single time we level up at such an intense scale, like the one in London, which was the last one that I did at Soho House. Holy shit. Like, because people feel that energy and they gather and they're ready to show up in massive ways. So
I'm excited about this one.
Me too.
You talked about The Secret. Did you read also The Magic by Rhonda Byrne? Because for me, I read that like 4 months ago. It's a bit like The Secret, but all about gratitude. And it completely shifted my mindset to have an abundant mindset too.
Everything is gratitude. Everything is gratitude. Absolutely. If you count every day, everything that you're grateful for, your life will shift in massive ways.
That's what happened to me.
Because that's all you're saying. You're saying, I want more of this. You're like, thank you for this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then the universe is listening to you, and you're listening to yourself because you're also becoming more aligned and more clear with what it is that you want.
Do you have a daily practice for gratitude?
Not one that I think about. I don't like time it, but there is not a day that I don't express gratitude for whatever, like for this cacao right now, which is incredible, for like your company right now and us being in this pool. Like I'm doing like little prayers to myself all the time.
Just for the people who listen to the podcast, we're in a swimming pool in Bali drinking cacao.
Just the normal day for us, literally. So I think that gratitude is just everything, and no matter how much money you're making, no matter what kind of experiences you're getting to have, is really being in absolute gratitude, because at any moment everything can shift. You can get in a car accident, you can get sick or whatever, you know what I mean, like and all those things like sickness and accidents are symptoms of your misalignment inside of yourself, and something that you need to remember. And so many people that have like terminal cancer and that survived were like, having cancer is the number one best thing that's ever happened to me, because it reminded me of who I was and why I'm living this life.
It's so true. Like for me, I got nothing that bad, but just an ACL surgery, so I couldn't do sports for 6 months. Made me so grateful. every time I was sick, I would then be like, oh, it's so good to be healthy. And I think what I learned since then was like to be grateful when I'm healthy, not only just after I've been sick, right? But every day.
Yeah, so my personal assistant, Simone, she was in a wheelchair for a year. And she's like, every time I get to just stand on my legs is the biggest blessing in the world for me. And so just remember, when you're standing, when you're using your hands to eat, you know, to grab something, to drive, like that is an incredible blessing. That's all you need.
You breathe. It's free. It feels good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talked a bit about what you were doing, changing education. We talked about how the life here is in Bali, and especially our connection. Like we hug. For me, what touched me is the first time I had a cacao ceremony in Akasha, and there was like 300 people all hugging and praying for more peace and from love, and I was like, that could be the world. And I feel when I look at what you're doing, it's a little bit like bringing a little bit of what we're experiencing here to the world, because that could be the world. Do you have plans to like kind of take it further, almost like create maybe nations or really whole society where people are in that vibe?
100%. So I envision us having our own passports. I envision us having our own,
like it.
you know, like spaces and lands and islands. Like it's going to expand, and we need these spaces because, especially people that are stepping into more awareness around love and connection, they can feel isolated, like you said, and kind of drained when they're in a society that's pushing and that's, you know, relate and, you know, that is living in a lot of the fear and stress mindset. And so I really want to create like safe spaces, and then also where people that are ready to experience a different type of lifestyle that can come in and that can visit and that can see and can be held with love and experience ecstatic dance and cacao ceremonies and all these things. And I think there goes so much to say as well for ceremonies, that's why I love it when, you know, we say a prayer or express our gratitude when we're eating. Like everything can be turned into a ceremony. Like there's no party that I do without doing a speech or a collective or something like that, some type of initiative to really actually drop in for a second into everyone that is there, instead of just being like at a party like, oh, like let's go over here and let's drink there and, you know, whatever, but like everyone coming together in a circle and just being present with the energy that's actually in the room, and it just shifts the whole party, you know, which we're going to experience tonight at Halloween.
Actually, we forgot to do it, and I'm sorry, but usually we have to start my podcast with a little meditation, placing an intention, and I feel bringing sacredness to everything, including our work, is so beautiful.
Absolutely. So with my personal assistant, because everyone that's come into ITrustYou has been like through pure divine magic, like totally synchronistic, like with this, you know, nearly investor that we had as well, like totally magic. And with my personal assistant, when we decided to work together, I still remember the first day that she came over to the office, and I'd actually like taken a quick walk like next to a waterfall, and I just kind of sat there and meditated for a little bit. So I was like, hey, I'm at the waterfall, like come find me. So she like comes out, and it couldn't be more perfect, because we just sit there and we do like a prayer and a dedication towards what our purpose is and like how we are aligned and being there. And so when you actually start an entire work relationship with a prayer and with like a devotion and a promise, it's so different, because we always remember that. We always come back to that of, you know, even though there's never been any conflict or there's never actually been anything where we're like, oh, this feels exhausting or draining, but we're always so aligned with that intention that we set to begin with. So
that's a beautiful way to work and to interact in general.
Totally.
I have a practical question that could maybe help the listeners around building a purpose-driven personal brand. So you've always obviously been very successful with this. What would you recommend to someone who wants to start, let's say, their purpose-driven personal brand on Instagram?
Yeah, so if you've really identified what your mission is and your alignment, and you're just like, this is what I know, because that's the first step, because you really need to know, like, what do you stand for? What are your
Yeah.
values? What is your mission? What are you trying to create in the world? And when you found alignment with that, then that's when you need to start speaking. And a lot of us have constriction around our voices because we were told to be quiet, we were told to shut up, we were told that we're not funny, we were told that we're not talented. And so really unlock your voice, and you know, you're all about unlocking, right? And so and that's what you need to do is to really stand in that and get ready to have the courage to express yourself. And so what that mission is and what that purpose is, express it as much as possible. Create content every single day on Instagram. I want you to be writing posts, making videos, using IGTV, writing, doing stories, and telling people, not just like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, this is my mission, blah 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 blah, but hey, here's me doing it. Like, here's me coaching a client. Here's me having a conversation with this guy on the street and helping him and supporting him. So just do the work and immerse yourself in it and get ready to fail, get ready to be criticized, get ready to be completely questioned in your sanity, but just continue and persevere, because that is the most important thing.
This is such a good point, and actually that's something I've been implementing when as I was starting too. Is like, okay, I'm gonna do a video, and if it's bad, great, because it will show all the progress I've made. And it will give permission first, and also it gives permission to start. It's like, what I want is, okay, I want to make progress, of course, but I'm completely fine when I start to have people watch my video and be like, well, this is not that good. Maybe I could also share what I stand for.
If I had started with that mindset when I was 16 years old, 14 years ago when I started on YouTube, I would have my own Hollywood TV show by right now. Easy. I would be one of the most prominent people that you would have heard about, because that's what stopped me for so long. For 10 years, I wasn't able to find my voice because I was so afraid of how shit I was. And that I was seeing all these other influencers and people and comparing myself to, like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio, who's been doing this, because I wasn't allowing myself to be in the journey. And so, you know, now wherever you're at, however you're speaking on camera, even if you're stuttering your ass off to get a word, hello, this is Virginia, and this is my vlog. Fucking do it, dude. Amazing.
I wanted to show it because I didn't want, like, 10 years later people to say, oh yeah, but you've always been amazing at public speaking, you know, I'm not like this and I'm not like that. And I wanted to be like, no, look, you know, so I 100% agree on that.
Totally, exactly. Like, honorings and power to you that anywhere that you are right now in your journey is exactly perfect, and just keep on walking down that path.
That's such great advice. Start before you're ready.
I thought it was good. Start before you're ready. That's a great one. That's a great quote to remember. Absolutely, because you're never going to be ready. You know, it's never that moment. It's never the good timing. It's never a good time for you to quit your job. And things will always go on, because one week to the next, life is constantly going to keep on evolving. It's not going to wait for you. You know, oh wait, everyone stop. Like, children stop being born. Like, lions stop being born because, like, Alex needs to figure his shit out. You know what I mean? Like, that's never going to happen. So, yeah, starting.
Consistency also. You've been super consistent. So how long have you started?
So I quit my job in corporate 4 years ago. It was probably like around this month as well, exactly 4 years ago. I took off a year to research happiness, to just really ask the questions. Ask yourself first. You don't have to start a business right away. You don't have to start telling people how to live your life, but just start living your life. And then later from that space, you can start educating. You know, I didn't start educating until, like, 4 years, where I really felt like I had built a strong foundation. And then the more I started proclaiming into the universe what it is that I was doing and the value that I was creating, people came to me. Like, I literally, like, I've never sold anyone anything. You know what I mean? Like, I've never gone like, hey, you should come to my mastermind, you should buy my course or whatever. That's never been. People have always come to me. I've always attracted my clients into my field. I've always attracted the people into my field.
Attraction marketing.
Completely, yeah. So that's I would say, is how you should start, is embody what it is that you're creating, and the people that are meant to work with you and the people that are going to get the value from what you're able to teach, they're going to come.
Yeah. And I feel even you can teach, like, to teach and to help someone, you just need to be one step ahead, right?
Exactly. And just that one step, just that one nugget of wisdom will make the difference of $1 million. Easy. If you're paying attention, if you're listening. That's why, like, anytime I get, like, a course or, like, any video, like, of value or whatever, like, I drink it in. Like, I really just, like, all that knowledge, everything that I can, like, I will just, you know, infuse that. And so, I mean, like, right now, I paid $7,000 for a 6-week program, you know what I mean? Is because I need to become as knowledgeable as possible if I'm building a university. And watching those videos, like, I am drinking in every single minute. I will stop it, and I was like, let me listen to that again, you know, and I write down everything and
What's
everything.
What's the course?
It's called, do you know Josue Peña?
No.
It's called Graham Sales Academy. It's
Okay.
It's a Instagram sales academy,
Okay.
which is perfect because you know, like you said, I have 100,000 followers on Instagram, and I don't really monetize it or anything like that. And there's so much more that can be done. And while I have some state-of-the-art sales training, so I worked for Apple, I managed $1 billion for them. I worked for Oracle. Like, our trainings are $100,000 a day that they're paying, you know, to these trainers. And so I was like, oh yeah, I know sales and I'm a great salesperson, whatever. But it's so important to relearn something that you've already learned, because I learned, you know, those $100,000 a day sales trainings. That was 5-6 years ago when I wasn't an entrepreneur yet. And so now things have changed and they're constantly evolving, and you have to listen to the same information sometimes. Even like right now, if you're watching this podcast, you know, get your phone out, pause it, put into your calendar to listen to it again a year from now, and you will hear completely different things that you haven't heard as you're listening to right now, because you're a completely different person having achieved completely different goals. So yeah, that's why I think education is so important. And I've been historically lazy because I love learning through mentorship, and I love learning through just someone sitting me down and like explaining me something. But the more I've become an online facilitator and created my own online courses, the more I've just been like, I want to consume more of this, because it's actually accelerated me. Like, you give me one piece of, like, just one piece of information, I could expand that and multiply it by 1,000 and make so much money on it as well. Like, I know how to monetize everything. It's great.
And we're so lucky to be born in that era where when we can access all this amazing knowledge. When I started listening to podcasts and books, I was like, actually, I was crazy not to use all that knowledge that's for almost free sometimes.
Totally.
And one last thing on the personal brand. So you talked a bit about it on you know, sharing your value, be clear on who you are. So when I look at your brand, it's very authentic. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you think about? Often people talk about Instagram like, oh, like Instagram is all about showing only the best side of your life, and you know, we've heard about those influencers who show the happy side and are a bit empty or miserable inside in the end. Like, what do you think that can be a trap for people who want to become an Instagram influencer?
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, like, you know, even if you look at it from a biological point of view of what these like likes and notifications are doing to your brain, that's why I also recommend to everybody to turn off every single notification on your phone, no exceptions. The only, like, people can't even call me. Like, my everything is off, you know.
I'm actually in plane mode most of the day.
Perfect, exactly. And so, you know, this gives you endorphin hits into your brain. And so if you're trying to step into making a personal brand, and, you know, you're stepping into entrepreneurship, then just be very clear around that, and what your relationship wants to be to social media. You know, I spend a lot of time on my phone. There's a lot of output that I create because I get around 300 to 400 messages across platforms every single day, you know, which is why I have a personal assistant who like manages these things for me. But there's still a lot that I do myself, and there's still a lot of conversations that I need to have by myself. And so what I would say is be aware of that before you're making that decision. And also, if you are ready to express your voice and come from an authentic and transparent place, and you're not, you know, just trying to ride your ego and trying to get your old high school crush to see how cool you are, or impress mom and dad, which I'm sure everyone has an element of that, but the more that you can remove yourself from that, the more personal happiness that you will find. And so, don't be like the fake shallow people, because there still is that everywhere, and people that are playing that game, and because they know that it like converts and that works, but we're just kind of feeding an inauthentic machine, but which also serves its purpose. Like, everything is sacred, everything is perfect, if it's the negative or the positive. But if you want to be one of those entrepreneurs that is telling the real story, that's giving the behind the scenes, that is sharing maybe when the days that you're also exhausted, and when you've run out of funds and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and and just feeling a little bit helpless. I mean, for me, thankfully, those days are less and less and less. But when they do come around, I share them authentically, and I say, hey, this is the other side to it. Yeah, I am verified. Yeah, I have all these followers and whatever. But I also do have times when I feel in a complete panic and like I'm a total loser, because like, how am I not able to grow these things quicker?
And I feel that really helps to relate. Like, for example, when I follow you a lot on Instagram, and when I see these, it helps me relate. So first, I'll be more engaged, to be fair. And on top of it, I find that being able to relate and to identify with people is also makes us able to learn faster. Like, for me, reverse engineering successful people is like, okay, these people aren't that different. Like,
100%. You need to make yourself relatable. You don't want to be like, you're not going to get into success by standing on the top of some mountain telling other people how to live their life. Like, it's a community thing.
And so how can people follow you? You talked about your Instagram.
So Instagram is like the main hub that I communicate most things on. So if you follow my full name at Virginia Salas Kastilio, you'll find me there. And otherwise, check on ITrustUniversity.com. There you can also email me and check out the courses and everything. And otherwise LinkedIn, put in my name. And our main hub is ITrustYou.love, which you'll find more about, like the campaign that we're doing in the Amazon rainforest. We're going to go down there in January, and we're campaigning to plant 1 million trees in the Amazon jungle. And so, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and we are definitely building a global community of people that are excited to, on the one hand, give back to the earth, but also to start their own path of personal growth and connection within a community that supports them and sees them, and that is going to help them accelerate into the most incredible life.
That's so nice. What do you see the movement in 3 years? To close your eyes and visualize.
Yeah, so I see us having global centers and universities all over the world for connection, because one of the sad things that I feel is, like, you have to pay nowadays to do, like, anything, like, to just hang out. Like, if you go to a cafe, like, I want to create a space for more play. And so, having board games, having, like, actual, like, adult-sized playgrounds, you know what I mean? Like, I really see us kind of being the Disney of connection and education. And so having, like, learning centers, having people, like, from the communities, like, giving talks and, like, exchanging and doing, like, hackathons and masterminds and all this kind of stuff. And so I want to facilitate those spaces, and also have areas where people don't have to buy a coffee or don't have to spend any money, but just can be in, and this is provided, by us. And in 3 years, I definitely envision that we will have at least a community of 3 million people, like, on our platform together. And if it's across our, mailing list or social media apps or whatever that's going to be, but really being one of the forerunners in conscious communities and conscious organizations that are giving back to the world. And I hope by then we will have planted, millions of trees and done amazing things for the environment.
Thank you, Jeannie. It's always a pleasure, and keep shining your light, both with those big communities of millions of people and those millions of trees and this huge impact, and those little smiles and hugs that you give to everyone every day, and that vibe that you share on a more simple, in the more simple life, let's say. And I find that combination really beautiful. Thank you for being here and having an open heart conversation with me and the listeners. We had a bit of cacao that helped, but I'm sure you didn't need that. And as the tradition for this podcast, we finish with a big warm hug.
Sending so much love to everybody listening right now.
Thank you guys for listening. Do you have a last word for our friends who took time to listen?
Aho.
Aho.